Hi guys, and welcome to my YouTube channel Pretty in Paper by B, where we are all about sharing the joy of pretty papers. Now for today's tutorial, I'm going to be walking you through step by step how to make an iris folding wall art using letters of the alphabet, just like this one. So as you can see, I've gone with a pastel rainbow themed for today's make, and it's totally up to you what colours you use, but all of the supplies you're going to need are in the box down below. So gather them together, get comfy, and let's get crafting. I've got all my supplies out ready for today's session. And we're going to be using these rectangular pieces of card, and we need 4 of them, cut to about 14.25 centimetres wide and 17 centimetres tall. And I've made them this size because when we put them together, they will fit in a nice box frame. Now for this next step, we're going to draw some grid lines onto our piece of card to make sure that we get our letter cutouts central. So I'm going to put some halfway marks along the top and the bottom of this piece of card, so at about 7.1 centimetres, and join the 2 up. So we've got a nice vertical line down the middle of the card. Then I'm going to do the same thing on the long edges of the piece of card. So the halfway point here will be about 8.5 centimetres. So I'm going to place those pencil marks along each side of this piece of card and then join the 2 up. And where both of our pencil lines meet is the middle of the card. And we can use this to make sure our letters are central. So when I've joined the 2 lines up together, I'm going to repeat this process on the other 3 pieces of card we've got out ready. Now we've got our grids drawn, you're going to need the templates from the pattern downloads. I've put the links in the description below. So from each of these templates, I want you to cut out the letters following the solid black line, and this is what we'll use to create the shapes on our card bases. Once you've cut out all your letter shapes, you're going to fold them all in half, both vertically and horizontally, just to create some creases in the shapes, because this is again what we'll use to make sure our letters are central on the card bases. Once you've folded all your letters, it doesn't matter which one you want to start with, grab one of your rectangular pieces of card and one of your letters and line up the creases in the paper letter with the pencil lines on the card base to make sure that we've got this letter in the middle. Then draw around the outside of your letter shape to create a pencil line, and this is what we'll use as a guide for cutting out our letter silhouette. And repeat this for each of the other 3 letters that we're using today. Once you've finished drawing round all the outside of your letters, you should have pencil marks on your pieces of card ready to use as guides for the cutting. So for this next part, you'll need to grab a cutting mat. Now we need to cut out the letter shapes. And to do this, you'll need a craft knife and, as I said, the cutting mat. So place the cutting mat underneath each piece of card and use your craft knife to cut out the shape. Now, top tip here, guys, a metal ruler can be helpful for making your cut lines nice and straight. So if you hold this against your pencil line, your alphabet letter shapes should have some nice straight cuts. Once you've finished cutting out all of your letter shapes, we are now ready to start thinking about the iris folding process. So you can move your cutting mat to one side because you're not going to need this anymore. You are going to need the iris folding patterns from the PDF download. So make sure you've got your PDFs cut up and ready, and grab the pattern for the letter you're going to start with. So I'm going to start with letter L. Move the other card shapes to the side because we don't need them until a bit later on. Grab a couple of pieces of blue tack and place them on the back of this letter L pattern. And these is just to use to stick it to the table to stop it moving throughout the process. So place down on the table, make sure it's nice and secure and isn't going to move. And then you're going to repeat this for the letter L aperture that we've just cut out. So place a couple of pieces of blue tack on the front of the piece of card and place it face down over the top of the letter L so you can see all the numbers and lines through the middle. Once you've got this in place, it's time to think about your pretty papers. Now in the PDFs, I've also included a pattern guide. Now this suggests using 4 different papers, but we're going to be doing something a little bit different today. So I've got out 5 and we're going to try a little bit of a different process. Now it's time to cut each of your pretty papers into your paper strips, each about 2.5 centimetres wide, but this doesn't need to be exact. When you've cut about 5 or 6 of each of your pretty papers, we can start the iris folding process. Now you've got your paper strips ready, I want you to grab a strip of the first colour of your pretty papers. So for me, I'm going to use pink as my first colour. And I'm going to fold over an edge of about 7mm just to create a nice crease in the paper. Then I want you to cut a section of this paper large enough to cover number 1 on the pattern, making sure that folded edge is facing inwards, and stick in place with a couple of pieces of sticky tape. Now as we go round following the numbers on the letter L, I want you to alternate between the 5 papers that you've chosen. So I'm going to go in the order pink, yellow, green, blue, purple, following those numbers and alternating my paper strips in between. Once you've put the final strip of your pretty papers in place, we just need to cover the hole in the middle, the iris. So I've chosen this holographic card because I think it captures the pastel colours that I've used today. Place it face down over the hole and secure in place with a couple of pieces of sticky tape. You can now turn over your first letter to reveal your iris folding. I'm loving this pastel pattern we've got going on here, guys. Okay, time to move on to the next letter. So I'm going to do letter O next. And again, the pattern guide is written for 4 papers, which you can follow or you can continue alternating between the colours that we've chosen today. So grab your letter O pattern and stick it to the table, again using a couple of pieces of sticky tape, making sure it's nice and secure. When you've got your letter O pattern stuck to the table, you want to grab the letter O aperture that we cut out earlier. And again, making sure it's face down over the top of your pattern so you can see all the numbers and lines through the middle. Then you're going to repeat the process we did earlier, folding your paper strips, covering the sections, making sure that folded edge is facing inwards. Again, like I said, you can use the pattern guide or continue what we're doing today with the 5 colours, alternating between each one. Once you've placed the final strip of your pretty papers on your letter O and secured in place with the sticky tape, you get to cover the hole in the middle again. Now I'm going to keep the same holographic card for the iris of all of my letters, just to tie in that consistency a little bit. So you're going to need a slightly bigger square for this one, and place face down over the middle again and secure in place with the sticky tape. And you get that exciting moment all over again. Oops, bit heavy-handed with my sticky tape there. Now you get to look at your iris folding. Hard work again. The letter O is one of my favourites because it's got such a nice spiral effect. Okay, now let's move on to letter number 3. Let's have a go at the letter V iris folding. So again, you'll need the V pattern. And you're going to use that blue tack again to secure it to the table and place your V aperture over the top, making sure you can see the lines and the numbers through the middle. Once you've got your V aperture in place, you're going to repeat the same process, alternating between your pretty papers. And again, once you've got the final strip of your pretty papers in place, it's time to cover the hole in the middle. So grab that holographic or glitter card, whatever you've chosen, cut a square large enough, face down over the top and stick in place with the sticky tape. Then you can move on to your letter E and repeat the process again. Once you've stuck your final strip of your final letter in place, you're going to cover the iris for the final time today. So again, I'm going to stick with my holographic card. I'm sure you've chosen something super pretty too. Cut a square large enough, face down over the top, and once in place, you can look at your final letter. I love this bit. Once all the iris folding is done and we can finally see all that hard work paying off. Okay, so for this next bit, I've cut a piece of foam board large enough to fit my box frame. Now this is 57 centimetres wide and 17 centimetres tall. So I'm going to use foam sticky pads now around the edge of each of my letters, spacing them about 4 or 5 centimetres apart, and then use these to stick my 4 letters to spell the word love. Once you've got all your letters stuck down in place, your iris folding love wall art is finished. All it needs now is to go in a box frame and on your wall. Well, I hope you've enjoyed today's tutorial, guys. Don't forget to like, subscribe and let me know what you think in the comments. See you next time.